Well, of course, the things don't want to work. Let's see if we can get things to work. Oh, they're
Come
not
on,
working. Whatever.
let's go.
Orange Podcast bad. Episode 21. I'm going to go ahead and open up the live chat to everybody. We'll fix the technicalities in the background. So remember, I'm the producer and I'm also one of the hosts. And, when things don't work, I can't always troubleshoot it live. Here we are. The title of this one's kind of funny because we're looking at tall ships and tall tales. And so I see a lot of things going around on the internet. People don't understand the phenomenon of tall ships. If you live in America, anywhere on the coast or on the Great Lakes, you're very familiar with tall ships. It's
Yeah,
a thing that they do, and they tour around the country.
yeah.
Every year, make stops. I've personally gone and visited. I've watched the tall ship parades in Michigan. I think I saw them. I've seen them on I've done it on Lake Michigan. I went and did that. So I've saw a lot of experience with this on the Great Lakes, but this isn't nothing new. And I see a lot of people, Paul, just why the hell would Mexico bring out even Matt Gaetz, former congressman? Why would they bring an 1812 boat into the river? I was like, well, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking to myself, it was a 1997 build or 92 build. It has a diesel propulsion system that's just hidden. Almost all of the new, I would say since the 70s at least, tall ships have a buried diesel propulsion system that you just don't see. They're meant to look like a 1812 ship or a 1775 ship, something like that. So we'll get into what happened in that, but it just amazed me that people, even former Congress people, are online go, what the hell is going on? Why the hell is Mexico driving or sailing a tall ship? And I'm like, oh my God, none of you've ever lived by the coast. And I was like, wait, Matt
Wow.
Gaetz? You live in Florida. Your district literally was on the coast. You got to be clickbaiting, bro. You've never seen the tall ships parade, and then when they dock in harbor, and you can pay $10 to go board all the ships and get a quick tour. It happens all over the coast. I don't get it.
So the other thing too that you have to remember about this ship is the U.S. Navy helped commission this Mexican ship because the U.S. Navy, um, it's not the Naval Academy, but it's if you're gonna if you're gonna be a ship driver in the Navy, they have a three master that you go on for 6 months and do training with. And this Mexican vehicle, this Mexican vessel was the same. It was a training ship for young naval cadets.
Yes.
And just like our naval cadet ship, it goes on tour. It goes all over the place. Goes to Fond du Lac and everywhere, and flies that big beautiful Mexican flag. I think that thing is so awesome,
It
man,
is
how they
cool.
do that.
It is cool.
And the extra thing are the lights on the mast and all that. It's really cool, really, really cool.
Absolutely.
And so you've got, 150 midshipmen that are running the ship, as part of their training. So when they graduate from this, they go into the Mexican Navy and, anywhere from a rib to a destroyer or to whatever, but they all take their training on this three master.
Well, yeah, some possible jobs that people aren't thinking of, and there was most likely an American dock master or port master, or there's a couple of different terms for it, on board the ship while it was in the river in New York. New York is a dockable river for ships. So that it was likely a mechanical failure, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. They said
Looks
they
like
lost full power, and I'm not so sure that it wasn't an American portmaster
I think it was a
that was
port
at the
pilot.
helm because they, once you come into our waters and get so far in, they're just not going to let you jack around and dock where you want and all that. They send a tug out there and put one of those portmasters on the ship, and he's like what we call in the Air Force a plane captain. He doesn't
Yeah.
fly the plane, but he's authorized to taxi it around and put it on different hard stands and stuff. And that's what a portmaster does. He runs the port. He assigns the docking site.
Hmm.
He does all of that kind of stuff. And him and probably a couple of guys with him take over your ship and dock it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a full hydraulic failure, and he just had no control.
So
None.
it
There
what
was nothing they could do.
what it looked like to me is so they stuck it in reverse, just swinging out off of the dock, right? So they still were probably they probably still had the bow, at least with man, a couple of men power, on a mooring. So they were trying to swing the rear end out, and then they were going to, because most likely, I don't know, most likely it has bow thrusters. So then they were going to use bow thrusters to just go ahead and push off and move forward. So from my observation, what it looked like is they got that thing stuck in reverse and couldn't figure out how to turn off the
Yeah, there
system.
was nothing they could do.
Right.
And I think from the looks of it, if you look at the water, Sean, I don't think they could kill the engines.
I don't think so either. That's what I was looking at.
That's my scoot. I just wanted to send it to you.
That's beautiful. No, and I think because and especially the speed that it continued to travel,
Yeah,
I think they literally had to go down and manually just kill the electric to the motor, the diesel
yeah,
motor, to get it to stop.
to get it to stop. Yeah,
And the transmission was stuck in reverse. And what's weird to me though is that I see like, okay, I like memes, and I think it's funny to make like, I don't care, make fun of people, but I still see people today like making fun of this thing and like saying just like two people died, like 20 people are still in the hospital. I don't care.
7. There were 7 midshipmen that were caught in slings up in the mast.
Yeah,
They got hurt, but they didn't. They didn't get killed.
somehow
But
hung
they were
on.
just hanging there, and people are just Mexican. Yeah, it was not cool.
Well, that brings us to tall tales. Because the internet reacts however the internet's going to react. And look, it's your life, it's your time on Earth. Spend
Yeah,
it how you want.
yeah,
And Edward, if you listen to this show later, you keep texting us, but you're not here just talking to us. But
yeah.
we can all hear you texting us. So I'm just throwing that out there, Edward.
You've been found out, dude.
So, look, people, it's your time on Earth. Spend it how you want. If you want to be vicious and say, I hope a former president dies, I can't stop you. I'm not even going to try to stop you. If you, like people said it about Trump, people still say it about Trump. When Rush Limbaugh admitted he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, the left was vehemently wishing for his expiration from Earth. Yeah, I'm gonna. I can hear the dings in the podcast. You're gonna hear one more. So people are gonna they're gonna be evil, they're gonna be mean, they're gonna maybe not understand what they're
Yeah.
talking about, so much so like in like this the Mexican tall, they didn't even understand why people still do tall ships. America still does tall ships,
Yeah.
and we do a lot of them. We there's big fleets, personal, like there's some personal vessels, there's some company vessels, and then there's some government vessels, and they make tours with other countries. All it's a thing. You just go check it out. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's cool. And if there's a day where you can board them, it's even
Yeah.
more cool. So
And in the Navy parlance, you're a real sailor if you can run a three master.
if you
You know
can
what I
throw
mean?
sails,
Oh yeah.
well, listen. That's not even the best part of it. Like when people are like, well, why, like when I've made comments, why do they have diesel motors now? I said because we don't allow them to come into river systems or ports under oar power,
Yeah.
because it used to be tall
That's right.
ships,
Yeah. You had to drop your sails and oar your way in.
and so they use diesel locomotion to do that now. I digress. Joe Biden. God, there's so much stuff going around. Lots of hate. And look, it's your life. Do what you want with it. If you, I'm look. I can hate his policies. I can hate his administration. I am not going to throw hate and wish an awful, awful death to another human being who's had cancer. Cancer sucks, and you can all go f yourself. That's no. But if you want to do that, you do that. I'm not going to. I can get into. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff about how he had hand on his hand all the way back to 2020. Looked like where he had IVs in it, and there's all kinds of pictures going around from
Yeah.
credible accounts and clearly not credible accounts that
Right.
he's been being treated for this since at least 2020. He wasn't even president yet. He was running for president. And then on that, Scott Adams came out today and said, look, I've got the same diagnosis. I expect my expiration to be this summer, and I've had it for many, many, many years, but I have the exact same diagnosis as Biden. And he goes, I don't believe Biden or his administration when they say it's only been, well, we just found out.
Oh, we just found out it's Gleason 9.
Right.
We just found out. How really? Every year that you're president, you have an annual checkup.
Yep.
Because let me tell you something, Sean.
And they take your blood.
My best buddy for I don't know almost 40 years. We worked at the sheriff's office together. We went to Bosnia together. We were gunslingers together at PMCs for private companies. I went to East Timor. He went to Afghanistan. And he literally called me on a sat phone from Afghanistan and said, dude, I got prostate cancer. They're sending me to Germany. I really, really don't know what to do. And I said, you're going to come to Texas, pal. Texas has the best cancer research everywhere. So him and his wife lived with me and Tanya for about 18 months, all through chemo, all through that. I mean, it's an ordeal. It's a big, big deal. And it's nothing to play around with. And I'm like you. I don't like Biden as far as I can throw him, but I don't wish that on anybody because that's a miserable, miserable disease and a miserable way to go. It just is. I mean, this guy on chemo, he couldn't even grab the refrigerator door because of the chemo. His hands were so adverse to cold. when the metal handle on the refrigerator was cold, and it was like it shocked him. He'd grab it and go like that. I mean, just little things people don't even think about. It was, dude, it was horrible, absolutely horrible, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. You're muted somehow.
All right, hopefully that. All right, that fixed it.
There you go. But you don't have to start over.
There's there's other things. I mean, you could make correlations to Biden, and I'm sure we're gonna make a bunch of them tonight. But I remember when my father or grandfather was about Joe Biden's age, early '80s, and he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he had spent 20 years with one of his wives dealing with breast cancer, and they were able to extend her life 20 years. And he just
Wow.
looked at the world and said, "Fuck that shit. I'm in my 80s. I'm not even gonna try. Not even gonna. No, nope. I saw how awful chemotherapy was."
Yeah.
He goes, "Dying's gonna be better than chemo,"
Yeah.
and that's what he told all of
Right.
our
Yeah.
a very large family. He goes, "This is going to be better than chemo. You don't want to see what happens with
Right.
me at 80 on chemo."
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it's no joke. And so to the
Yeah.
people
So
who want to rip on Biden and say, "Well, yeah, grandma, you wouldn't let me see my grandma during COVID." I get your anger, and I think it's justified. You're allowed to have it. I'm choosing to just say, I don't want any of these things to happen. That's where I'm at. I really don't. I like this all awful.
it's all awful. And so with Tanya's iron deficiency,
Mm-hmm.
we had to go to Tyler to the oncology center to get iron transfusions,
Sure.
and it's like a room, football field size room with all these comfortable chairs and IV, and there's like two people getting iron, and the other 390 people are getting chemo.
Right.
And dude, I was just biting my bottom lip. I couldn't handle it, dude. I just couldn't handle it because you could see every couple or every, mom would have two little kids,
Right.
do rag, just sitting in this chair getting her shit. And, Tanya sitting there. It takes an hour and a half. They drip, 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 She was getting iron, but man, I was just like, oh, holy shit.
Right.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's like growing up and having Edward's hair, and there's just nothing you can do.
You guys still going up my hair?
What's up? Our Canuck friend joined us from the way north. It's not as far north as you think, most Americans.
They still, my nickname's still Kramer. So,
dude, that's solid. I like it. That's solid. Dude, you're just blessed you have it, right?
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, it just is what it is.
I mean, so do you use Revlon number 5 to keep the color?
Hey, that is, you know what? Everybody asks me, why I'm not gray, because I'm 60. And they say you got no. I do have some gray here. It's starting to come in. I see a few here and there, but yeah, no, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
It's because you've only been divorced once. If you do it again, you'll look like this.
I got more wives than King Solomon. Are you kidding me?
All right, so let me get your opinion. You found out, I'm sure today, Biden has cancer.
Yeah, I heard
What
that.
are your
Yes.
thoughts? What are your
Yeah, I heard
thoughts?
that already. Yeah, that's a well. I can't say I'm surprised. I can't even say that they didn't even know that a while ago. They just outed with it now. It's sad. I mean, that's just a horrible way to go. Uh, and I don't know if he's going to take some, the newer treatments that we've talked about. Remember that one show we all did with the JC?
Benbenzidol and ivermectin
Right,
with
right. Yeah.
zinc. We would need JC. I can't look. Obviously, we're on multiple platforms. I can't give any medical advice. We would need our pharmacist friend
Right, right. Yeah.
to do that. But yeah, those I think our pharmacist friend would say, yeah, even at this late stage of the game, they could
Yeah.
provide benefit.
Yeah. And then you go back to I don't know what the guy is, he 84 years old? I can't remember what he is now. Or
I
80,
think two. It'll be three
82?
this year.
All right, yeah. So he may think, I don't know, who knows, but it's yeah, a sad state of affairs. However, I still have to say he's still accountable, and we have to hold this guy accountable for what he did do, the damage to the country. So we can't let the guy off scot free, as some have been saying. Well, you know what? He's got cancer now, and we'll just sweep everything under the. Nah, no, he's still accountable for everything that he did and took part in. And I think the government should be looking at things just that way. But that's just my 2 cents worth.
Paul, what do you think? Is he accountable, or if he's really that far chemo brained, and he has been since 2020? Is it more that Jill Biden and the cabinet, which should have
No,
25th
I
him?
got to tell you, uh, uh, I feel like he's not accountable. He did what his handlers told him to do
Oh yeah,
because he was in a weakened state. I think Jill's position was, I'm going to protect my husband no matter what. I think it was a herd of 25-year-old uh, wannabes in the party that took him down this path, decided it was best to hide it. He didn't have any. If you notice, Biden is one of the only presidents that didn't have any senior advisors that you knew by name. I mean, you know all of Trump's advisors and who they are, and
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And
Well,
even Obama, you do all his advisors and
yeah,
stuff.
there was some that were recognizable that were part of the cabinet, like Blinken, like
Oh no, yeah,
Mayorkas,
but
like
I'm talking
Buttigieg.
about the inner circle.
the
The
United
real,
Nations. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Those
I
guys.
just think these younger dudes were just putting themselves forward or putting the party first, and just covered up all of that stuff. And I think they should be held to account
Yeah.
100%.
Me
Yeah.
too. The whole Democratic Party and the leaders should be held to account. All of them. I'm talking the
Well,
Nancy Pelosi's all the way through the whole list. Mayorkas, another guy.
oh
All
yeah, Schumer, and yeah, all of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
Schumer, pencil neck. Yeah,
Well, Edward, I think in general in the West, we're going to have to find a way through whatever constitution you have in your country or territory. The entire progressive movement's going to have to be held accountable for some of this stuff. I'm sure that they have some guilt in propping up Joe Biden as a candidate when they remember used COVID to hide him in a basement
oh
because
yeah, I
he was
remember that.
already showing signs of diminishment.
Yep.
Probably because he was getting treated for cancer, but or maybe he was already dementia ridden or Alzheimer's ridden.
I think he was definitely getting chemo treatments even back then, Sean.
I do too.
100%.
I
Yeah.
really do. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. What if we have somebody that comes up that says, "Oh no, it didn't happen till 2022." I'll go. He was already diminished when he ran for president in 2020.
Come on, we all
Remember, he
know
became
that.
president on January 20th of 2021. It
That
was
can't even be.
obvious to at
Yeah.
least half the country. So you've been lying to half the country that there's been a president for 4 years.
Well, you know what? You can't even argue that anymore because it's in plain sight. The guy walks on the stage, falls down on the stage, can't even get off the stage while walking in the walls. I mean, we all knew that it was plain for all of us to see. That's not even
Talking to dead
argument.
people.
What's that?
Talking to dead people
Yeah,
days after they had passed away.
another thing.
Hey, is so and so here? I
Yeah,
just spoke with her backstage.
I know.
Where is she?
Horrible.
Are you
Yeah.
here? Are you here?
It's just CNN and MSNBC just been lying through their teeth as far as the sharpest guy we've ever dealt with, and oh my God, really, people? Yeah, that is. We should be putting those people in jail. The media, I mean.
That's right, Edward. And I just wonder why we haven't legislated some kind of an accountability after all these years. That you just can absolutely say whatever you want with a national audience and nothing ever happens to you. Nothing. Ever. Nothing. Rachel Maddow can the ladies on The View, all of that, they can spew whatever they want and they're not held accountable what is proven to be just an out and out falsehood.
Well, actually, there was a law going decades ago.
Smith-Mundt
now,
Act.
You couldn't do that, even in
Smith-Mundt
advertising.
Act.
What's that?
Smith-Mundt Act. It got repealed under Obama. Smith-Mundt Act. They could be held liable for spreading
Right.
lies.
But not
I don't
now.
want to say the current terminology because what it is lies. Now,
And you
The
know what?
View technically would not be under the Smith-Mundt Act because it's an entertainment show.
Right.
But ABC, CBS, NBC, which are all broadcast channels, over the air, yes, they're on cable too, but that we allow them to be on the air as news so that if the president needs to address the nation, they have to stop their programming, put the president on. They were all held accountable by the Smith-Mundts, MUNDTZ, so that's the pronunciation, Mundt
All right.
Act. And so they weren't doing that in the way they do it now, post-Obama.
You know what's more? Even speaking of just in media relations, even the school board in the Constitution, you're not allowed to teach subjects which do not have any scientific fact or backing, any unfactual information. You're not allowed to teach at all. How come nobody is standing up, to the school board saying, "Hey, the law strictly says you can't teach or propagate any of this nonsense that you're teaching today without it being based in fact"? None of that's based in fact, but they're still teaching it anyways. How come nobody's bringing them up on charges? They're throwing them in the clink. We should have been doing that a long time ago.
Well, to be honest, there were parents doing that in under the last administration. I can't even call it Biden's administration because they don't know who was in charge. Under Otto Penn's administration, let's do that. Under Otto Penn's administration, they were actually knocking doors on these parents' houses and arresting some of them, and some of them got sent to jail.
I know.
Like we were
Yeah.
so close to being socialist. What was the term I saw? We were so close to being balkanized. Paul would understand that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
To divide us into tiny little sections. Everyone hates each other, and we're all going to throw each other in jail. Balkanized.
Yeah, and
It's here.
Tim Walz, goes to this graduation ceremony and says that Trump's Gestapo, with masked men jump out of unmarked vans and scoop up people off the street and send them to torture chambers in another country. He said that.
Who said that? Who?
Tim Walz.
Oh my
Come
God. Yeah,
on.
that guy, that guy's, I don't know if I could say that or not, but he's a little loose, that guy, just
You
to put it
you could
mildly.
say most things. You've done this with me long enough. You could say most things. So
Okay, I'm just going to tell him he's absolutely
oh,
retarded.
you could use the word retarded.
I got it because he is.
Absolutely.
The guy
I
has
mean,
no
listen,
reason.
fellas, we do walk a fine line, but if I get a term of service violation on the 9 platforms we're going to be on tonight, I'll
Mhm.
let you know so that we know not to do it again. So far,
Okay.
we've not had a single TOS violation, and we are on our combined 30th episode
Wow.
between the three of us,
I find that
and no TOS violations. So
I find that hard to believe with some of the subject matter. Maybe with the new president at the helm, maybe things have relaxed a little bit, or they don't think they can get away with as much. I'm not sure, but that's good news. Up here, that may turn out a little different. We have to wait and see what's coming after the king comes, and the big slap on the wrist we're going to get. I'm sure. But hopefully, Trump
wait,
sticks to his guns more and says,
when is that going to happen? Because so first I got to. I know what I want to know when it's going to happen, but I got to tell you the reason this news came out about Joe and it came out late on a Sunday. I'm telling you, this was to build sympathy, and you see it so much on social media. They're like, just stop picking on the man. He's retired. He's dying. They don't want you to focus on what his actual administration did that he may have, and most likely had no idea what they were doing, what
yeah.
he was actually ink signing, or what AutoPen was signing. They want to distract you from that because Trump's administration's already come out and said, we're totally going to look into this. And I don't think any of the Biden pardons, most of his executive orders, are going to be good and fair and standing.
No, well, we've all talked about that back on Mega Missions. Remember, we talked about the guy being, if he's mentally retarded, or I should say incapacitated, mentally, then nothing he's wrote should stand because he wasn't in his right mind. He had no sound mind at the time because we talked about him, well, his diminished capacity way back in 2020, even. So, yeah, none of that stuff should be able to stand, and I don't think any of it will. So yeah, we've beat that one already, and I think that's true.
Any thoughts on that, Paul? If not, I'm going to ask him about the king.
Go ahead.
King, when does that happen? When does the king visit the
The
colonies? The colony.
fair enough. You can say that, and it's the 27th. It'll be the 27th of this month, which is what, a week and a half away, two
Yeah, I
weeks
think
away, 2 weeks.
10 days. Is it the 27th, the Indianapolis 500? Yeah, I think
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
you mentioned that already. That's right
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so,
one of my favorite
well,
races.
it's gonna be beautiful.
You sure
That's what
Uh,
will.
I'm watching.
I'll be live tweeting the whole time. So yeah, you can catch it up. You know what? This whole Penske thing, we'll get into it in a minute. But the king, let's get back to the king for a second. Why would the king open parliament in Canada if he wasn't the king? At least, look through your two constitutions, and we've talked about this in more depth. We're not going to go that deep. Why would the king still open up parliament? Because we believe he still is the monarch of the nation, even though he's not the prime minister of the nation, just like England has a
Yeah,
prime minister. But they still have some subservient ties to it's minor, but
uh-huh.
to the crown, right?
Right.
And what was the one you brought up? It was the military.
Yeah, the governor general, you mean, in charge of the military, not our prime minister or in
Right,
this case,
which the
president.
governor general you told
Yeah,
me answers to the king, not the prime minister.
correct. Yeah, the prime minister puts him in that position, that liaison between the king and the Canadian government. That's that go-between person we call the governor general. But they're the ones that are actually actually any monarch in the world has the governor general and they are in charge of the military, not the prime ministers of all these countries. They're all the same. Everyone follows the same pattern. So yeah, that's where we are with this whole thing. And I gotta say, he's just coming to show support that look at us. England still basically owns you. You know, we're all there for you. We're going to protect you. You don't need USA. Hopefully Trump says, wait a minute, stop that nonsense. You are not. We've always protected Canada. They're our friends more than your friends. We've been more Americanized, and well, we definitely are more Americanized. We don't have an English accent like Australia does or these other, colonies. We're basically Americanized. I don't care how much of a Canadian you are, we're still very much an Americanized country. Not so much a British monarch, although we are that. We've just left them behind, or actually, they've actually left us behind. That's more accurate. But yeah, we are so Americanized now. There is no turning back. So I don't care what he says to the Canadian people or tries to appeal to them. It's a no go. It's going to be the states because we're just that close to the. Well, we've gone back and forth, citizen to citizen, from Canada to America, from America to Canada. We've always gone back and forth, anyways. We don't fly to England much, I'll tell you that right now, but we do. We go to the States a lot more than anybody will ever go to England because why in the heck would anybody ever want to go there? But hey, I know, that's just my 2 cents. I know a lot of my family's gone there to visit, and so has my ex-wife just came back a couple of years ago. She wanted to visit there too because that's where her heritage is as well. I'm thinking, oh my God, why? But
So
anyway,
was this the lower island, or was this up towards Scottish lands, or like where does your family?
oh, England. Well, half England, half Ireland, depending on what side
Okay,
of the team you're on. So yeah, so
sure.
that. I just finally got to my grandfather's letter from the king and medals because my father passed away, and I told you that a few weeks
Yep.
ago, about a month ago now, and so I got them all framed and everything. My sister has them now, the letters and everything, so it's
Good.
still very closely tied to the king. George, but nonetheless, we're not, part so heavily part of the monarch. We're like I said, we've long since fallen away from that, and we're so Americanized now. You can almost call us. I told my cousins, you can basically call us junior Americans because that's what we are. Junior Americans, they all start getting mad at me. It's true though. Junior Americans, we are, and always have been. For just nobody wants to admit it or realize it. But yeah,
Right.
when America coughs, we catch a cold. We've always known that, and it's just a fact. Love that. Actually,
Look, Trump's gonna do what Trump's gonna do. I'm just curious. I'll probably will be working at the time. I'll have to watch it later. I'm just curious what the king's coming to do
yeah.
and to put in place when he's losing Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer's saying, wait a minute, we screwed up. We're gonna have to close our borders. And Carney is like, no, 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 come here. We want you all. We want you all. He's still in that mindset where
I know.
Starmer went go, wait, what?
I
And
know.
he's like, no, 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 no. We're done with this. Starmer's not going far enough. Starmer needs to start deportations just like Trump has started. And he's going to come up into these same legal issues that Trump has come up against. But Starmer needs to fight it, or the United Kingdom or Britain, let's just call it Britain, it's going to fall. It's absolutely going to fall
Well,
to Muslims.
Well, what's happening now is they've got probably a dozen camps. They call them repatriation centers throughout the country. Most of them are at World War II military bases and stuff that have been converted, and then out on their training fields and stuff, they put tent housing and that kind of stuff. But what's different between the UK and the United States is the US says you came in here illegally, you're leaving. Whereas the UK is taking it literally case by case by
Oh,
case
come on.
by case, and there's a million. Like Trump said, it'd take 33 years to process everybody. But
Definitely.
More than that. You're
that's
right.
what the UK's doing. They
Yeah.
are taking everyone case by case by case.
And isn't that just a libtard way of handling things? Take
It
all
really
the money
is.
you
Yeah,
want,
sure it
take
is.
all
Yeah,
the time and all the money because we
yeah.
got it.
You got
Oh my
these
God.
hard bedwed communist liberals that are, kumbaya, come in here, have a
Yeah.
seat, let's talk for a little bit,
You have
that
rights.
kind of thing.
No, you
Yep.
don't.
This is your
No, you
tax
really
dollars.
don't. You don't have rights.
Yeah, no. And that's the
You
whole thing.
don't.
Too.
You invaded a country illegally. You don't have rights.
Well, because you're not a
You don't.
citizen.
Yeah, and the security at these camps in the UK, of course, they're unarmed.
Uh-huh.
They don't have any teeth.
Uh,
They post things up on the wall that says, "You have freedom of movement. We ask that you be back here by dark."
But they go through the streets of
No.
England or some other countries. We could look at a lot of European countries. They literally cause terror, and they unalive some people.
Unmitigated terror, John. Yeah.
and
Unaliving of people, committing SA against kids. You
Yep.
know
yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. And that's totally just supposed to be accepted. But if you post a meme on Mark Zuckerberg's face melter, you go to jail.
I know. That's why this whole thing's got so corny, and the libtards have got things so messed up with what they want, and it's not even based in reality. The very premise of their thinking is way off. I mean, where they start to begin with is so wrong. Someone's just got to. I guess that goes back to the network news and media, though, doesn't it? Because they're the ones, propagating all this stuff, and it's not right. And someone's got to call them out. And I don't know how you get the older generation off network news. There's just no. It seems like there's just no doing it. They trust these people that. Well, why would they lie to us? I'm thinking, oh my God. And I hear that from them all the time. Well, why would they lie to us? I mean, you got to be kidding me. How do you think communism started? But they just don't. They just don't know. And it just, because they're so comfortable now at the last, say, decades of their lives, they really don't want to get involved either right now. I mean, they put their time in, they figure, and that's that. Where, we all think a little differently. We feel obligated. I know that's a word no one wants to hear anymore. We're obliged. If someone's done us a favor, done us something, we feel obligated to, pay back, offer some type of homage, to these people. But for some reason, they don't see or think the same way we do. They don't think that they owe anything. They just are so free from it all, and we don't think that way. We have debts to pay for. Again, we're obligated because we feel that obligation. They don't.
Well, not just that, but they're not having children. I have children, and very soon. I mean, very likely, one of my oldest, my stepdaughter. She got married a year ago. I could have grandchildren soon. I
Good
don't
God
want to
Almighty.
leave them.
Wow.
I don't want to leave them to a world that's socialist. I don't. I can't imagine.
No.
And they've all and I watch them go through school, and they come home and they say things that they were taught by their teacher. It wasn't. The teacher wasn't teaching them about something about the class. The teacher was just having a socialist rant and say, oh my God, the one I remember the most is Donald Trump told you to drink bleach. And I was sitting so my wife, mother of all three of the kids, was at work, and I was sitting at the dinner table. I'd made them dinner, and they were asking me questions. They're like, Donald Trump told everybody to drink bleach. F Donald Trump. And I was like, that's interesting you say that, because he never said that.
I know.
And they're like, what do you mean? Everybody knows. It's common knowledge, Sean or Dad, depending on the kid, right?
Uh-huh.
I was like, "No, he never said that. He never said those words."
Correct.
And they're like, "Wait, but my teacher," I was like, "Yeah, I
Mm.
know, but your teacher's wrong." And they're like, "So here's the thing though, when you're 13, 15, who's right? They're like about 32 hours a week of schooling they do. And so they're around these teachers a lot, and they're gonna believe these teachers. And here's where we
Right.
get into them creating Marxism and
Yep.
separating them from the parents and going, your crazy dad or your crazy stepdad, he's one of those MAGA fanatics. And this would have been back in his first term. So we're looking at 9 or 10 years ago almost, even when he was running, uh, when he came down the golden escalator. And just immediately, the kids were indoctrinated to hate Trump
It's true.
and hate the word MAGA. And I would have honest conversations with them. I was like, and they'd be like, Trump just did this. I'd be like, I know he actually didn't. He did that, and
Mm.
they'd be like,
It's sad because
they would start getting, you'd see that like the dopamine hit wouldn't hit right, and they get upset or sad. And I wasn't arguing with them to argue with them. I was just like, I know that what your teacher said wasn't true. Here's what happened. And like the chemical balance in their brains at teenage
Yeah.
level, they're like, I'm just gonna shut down now because I don't think anybody's right. I feel like everybody's lying to me.
yeah, if I could just say, and to further your remarks, if I had a kid in school at that time, I would have marched right into that principal's office and told him, drag that teacher's ass out of that classroom and get him in here right now. We're going to have a conversation. Then we're going to go back in the classroom and we're going to tell all the kids this guy's going to apologize for the idiot statements he's made by listening to CNN, MSNBC, or whatever else, what other Cartoon Network he was getting his information from, because it certainly isn't reality. And we would just do that. Absolutely. Well, what would be a hesitation? I'd be doing that. And then every other teacher in that whole school would be getting that same conversation later on. And yeah, we put a stop to that. So that's what I would do. And that's too bad. Too bad. I wasn't.
Alejandro Mayorkas was arresting all of those parents here
Yeah.
in the United States. We were living
Uh,
through pre-Trump 2. We were living through the beginning stages of communism.
Sure, but we're there now. I know exactly what you mean because we are there. And yeah, that was these school board meetings they had, at nighttime where they had like 15,000 FBI officers and city cops there just in case
Oh yeah.
something out of line. We're going to jump all over them, throw handcuffs on them, and march them out of here. I remember those. And yeah, you're right. They did have to go through that. But I'm talking about being more, instead of an apologetic, I'm talking about being more. Polymatic, where I'm taking the offensive and I'm going there, not to the school board, right to the school itself, and then to the school board afterwards, even just for more fun, and tell them all as well where it's at. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
All right, we're going to go to segment 3 on this one. There was a kid, I don't know his age, I don't know his name. You guys will know him as the fertility clinic bomber.
The what?
A fertility clinic bomber. So his own life died. So, well, just hang on the sidelines for a second, Paul. Do you know who I'm talking about? That there's a fertility clinic, IVF
Yeah.
clinic. All right,
Yep.
so there's a kid, and I'm going to say kid, but he was in his early 20s. To me, that's a
Yeah, he's
kid.
a kid. Yeah.
So he wrote him. He wrote him. He wrote himself a manifesto. His whole ideological standpoint was that if you can't consent to being born, then you shouldn't have been born. And he's got, like, if you read some of the manifesto, if you read start to read some of this stuff, like the guy was just so mentally trapped in this ideology of nobody should ever be born, nobody consented to being born. We should, like, a life should, human life should just stop existing because nobody should be, you should have to consent to being born. Super mental ill. Like, and I posted a couple of things online. I was like, when did we get rid of, we used to have mental schools for people like him when he was, so when he was like 14, he burned down his parents' house. And so I asked the question, that's when I asked the question online, when did we get rid of child healthcare, mental health care facilities? My first wife, yes, I've been married twice,
Yeah, I hear you.
uh, worked at one of these facilities, and she actually loved the work. She worked overnights on the weekends, two 12-hour shifts. Absolutely loved the work. But they were locked facilities, so obviously the left is going to say, well, it's a prison. Well, yeah, it's a prison, but you have people in there trying to help you. It's only a prison because your doors are locked, so you can't run away.
Yeah.
And she had to take self-defense training and she got her ass whooped several times by 16 and 17-year-old girls that were just
Yeah.
220 pounds and huge. Just got her ass whooped. She didn't care. She loved the work. She loved doing it. And so my question was, are these facilities not available anymore? And it turns out, I got a lot of comments. The ACLU sued the shit out of the United States, and the Supreme Court said no. This is a violation of your constitutional amendment or your constitutional rights, your civil rights. Nobody can put you in one of these things. Allah, homelessness everywhere because families just couldn't deal with people like whoever bombed this IVF clinic, who burnt their house down 10 years ago in their teens and now in their 20s. Paul, when do we make
So,
a decision to come back to mental health facilities?
so I retired from law enforcement in 2005, and I was working in the state of Florida. And the state of Florida has what's known as a Baker Act. So the Baker Act says if I, as a law enforcement officer, can determine that you are going to do harm to yourself or others, even though you have not committed a crime, let's say I do a Terry stop and
Mm-hmm.
this guy's spouting his manifesto and all this kind of stuff, I can take that person, adult or juvenile, into custody and deposit him at a secure mental health facility. Where I worked, it was Volusia County outside of Daytona Beach. And you could take them there, and it was a 72-hour uh,
Okay.
observation. They'd talk to a counselor, they'd get in processed and all that kind of stuff, and then they'd get turned loose or they'd get reprimanded to the court. If they had committed a crime, they'd get remanded to the court. But if they had committed no crime, it was just 72 hours in, cooling off period, speak with a social worker and a psychiatrist or psychologist and that. But we used the Baker Act all the time. And we even used it for kids who were, just out of control at their parents' house. They start flinging shit around and, my mom's an idiot, single moms and stuff, and they're just going to kick mom's ass. Okay, you could tear up your own house. That's not a crime, but I'm going to take you in under the Baker Act because you're acting like a retard and we're going to get you some help.
So,
Involuntary.
so
Now, in 2025, I don't know if that still is in effect, but we use that in Florida all the time, called the Baker Act.
It might be in effect. Apparently, though, the ACLU won a lawsuit against the Supreme Court, or in the Supreme Court, not against, um, that said this was a violation of a human being's civil rights. And so most of those
But it's not.
facilities,
You're protecting
I
the
agree.
citizens. If left
I agree.
unchecked, the theory being left unchecked, this person is going to do harm either to themselves or to others in the community.
This,
Hence the manifesto and all that kind of stuff.
I'm totally with you. And I learned some things when I asked the question on X. Apparently, the ACLU won this suit.
Wow.
And so most of the facilities, whether they were state run or federal run, had to shut down. And it turned into voluntary. And even with what you're saying,
Voluntary.
even with what you're saying, the ones that were in the worst of the worst, that were a judge said, yeah, you're going. It was no more than 30 days. So the ACLU, which the ACLU is a horrible, demonic
Oh
organization.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely demonic. They want to destroy the world. They really do. They're not there to help people at all.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So yeah, so these institutions just they don't exist, and I am not calling number one. I'm just not calling her. But I'd be curious where she works now because she worked a lot 20 years ago in facilities just like I'm talking about. That they were locked facilities. You could go ahead, ACLU, and call it a prison, but we were keeping them in so that they didn't get out and do the evil that was in their brain. And number one told me like, well, she was having counseling sessions or doing other things, or they do mealtime. And having conversations with these young, she was doing it with the under 18 crowd, but they were basically almost they were incarcerated. Let's just call it what it is. She would tell me stories about some of the things that were in their head, and she goes, "Some of these kids are never going to leave the system. Some will. There are some." With our counseling, with the things we do, there's some people there that, like, when they get to 18 or 20, I think 20 was their cutoff at the facility she works on. Yeah, I think the rehab we can do will get them back into society. She goes, but most of these people, as early as 12, they're never going to be allowed to be in society until now. I find out about, I didn't know about it, this ACL Supreme Court case.
Yeah.
That,
So it was so, I don't want to say it was so prevalent, but we had, and every district had it. So where I worked in South Florida, we had a dozen kids from 12 to 21. You knew their name and date of birth. You roll up, first of all, you would recognize the address if they were wrecking shit at home. Or you had a disturbance call at, 7-Eleven. And you get out of the car, you look at this kid, you go, I know this guy. Baker acted him twice. He's nuttier than a shit house rat. So I know we're gonna fight because he's just that kid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it was just a rotation. You take them and tackle them, put them in cuffs, and put a spit bag over their face because they're trying to spit on you and bite you and all that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
And you take them to a Baker Act facility, and if they were still so rowdy, the intake person at the Baker Act facility would go, we can't handle somebody this violent. So we take it to Volusia County Jail.
Sure.
And you'd
Yeah.
have 3,500 pounds of beef come out there in uniform and go, you ain't fucking around here, son.
That's right.
Them days are done. You're
Yeah,
going to
Edward,
say
real
yes or
quick.
no, sir, or you're going to be an oil patch underneath that diplomat right there.
100%. Listen.
And so here's the other thing that was funny, Sean. The other thing that was funny was you get some guy like me, a big beefy guy, and say, I ain't putting up with your bullshit. I will wipe the floor of your ass and take you to jail. And all of a sudden, they weren't mentally ill anymore. They were like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just lost my
True.
temper.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah.
What's
That's
the
right.
parents gonna do?
Yeah, because your dad's $1.50 and he's a CPA. You think you could get over on him? You ain't getting over a Watas here, man. I was raised on a ranch. I'll stomp a mud hole in your ass.
We're gonna have, Paul. We're gonna have to do a little more on this on another podcast because I do have a lot of experience with it with ex-wife number one. Ex-wife number two is the one that caused all the gray. But that being said, we're gonna have to do that. But so you guys can't see this. I've got the Twitter chat open. Edward. So is the Canadian royal family or the monarch originally French or what? Was the chat?
No. We do, as far as Quebec goes, we do have a French element to our country, yes. So they're going to listen to whatever they, say in France, of course, not the king, because it has nothing to do with them. They're going to say that, even though they're part of the, Commonwealth or the Confederation, I should say. So that's true. But no, we're all supposed to listen to the king, except Quebec will say, no, we're listening to France, screw you guys, and like they've always said. So yeah, because it's that split in the country. But, they're supposed to be still kind of, well, that changed a bit too. So that's not even true anymore. They're not really part of us, only to get the money. But that's about it. They're in opposition to everything else. So, yeah, that's kind of a twisted, weird thing. The King of England is what?
British.
Yeah.
Well, I responded British, but I wanted you to get your comment in because they were listening live.
Oh.
Hey, we gotta go, fellas. It's we're at 1 hour, 2 minutes. We're
What?
on the way.
Already?
Let's go. Yep. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all coming. Had a good time.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, Paul. Did you know in a 1980 F-250 fuel injector kit?